is a point in life where the fog lifts, and you finally see money for what it truly is. A battlefield where only the disciplined survive. Most people never reach this realization. They walk through life half asleep, hoping that luck will save them, hoping that opportunity will magically appear, hoping that the world will hand them what they never earned. They cling to fantasies. One day things will get better. One day I'll get ahead. One day I'll change. But one day never comes for those who refuse to take command of their financial life. The world is full of people living under the rule of their own chaos. Their impulses rule them. Their emotions rule them. Their excuses rule them. Their lack of structure becomes the silent tyrant, draining every possibility of wealth. And the saddest part? They don't even realize they've surrendered. They've surrendered their future to bad habits. They've surrendered their potential to distraction. They've surrendered their power to fear, to procrastination, to weakness disguised as comfort. But you are not meant to join the masses in financial servitude. There is a fire inside you, restless, relentless, ancient, a fire that refuses to kneel, a fire that demands you rise. This is the part of you that craves order, the part that hungers for sovereignty, the part that knows deep down that money is not about greed. It is about freedom, stability, control, and the ability to build a life on your own terms. Money bends only to those who build structure around it, to those who create systems instead of excuses, to those who move with intention instead of randomness, to those who think for themselves instead of being herded with the fearful and the weak. You must become the ruler of your finances, not a spectator, not a dreamer, not a victim of impulse. A ruler. Because when you take command of your money, you take command of your fate. This is not glamorous work. This is not emotional work. This is not comfortable work. This is war with your old self. The undisciplined version who acted out of impulse, who spent without thinking, who numbed themselves with momentary pleasures while their future withered in silence. You must bury that version of yourself. Not gently, not compassionately, ruthlessly, because that version of you was never designed to build wealth. It was designed to survive, not to conquer. It was designed to react, not to strategize. It was designed to obey cravings, not create empires. The person you are becoming is forged through structure, discipline, and cold, unshakable clarity. You must create order where there was disorder, a plan where there was guessing, a system where there was chaos. Your financial life becomes a fortress when you anchor yourself in routine, when every dollar has a purpose, when every choice is filtered through long-term consequence, when you stop bending to the temptations that steal your potential. Because the truth is simple. If you spend like a servant, you will live like one. If you invest like a gambler, you will lose like one. If you approach money emotionally, you will be punished by those who do not. Wealth is not built by emotion. It is built by discipline, so consistent it borders on cold. It is built by decisions so intentional they intimidate the weaker minds around you. It is built by endurance, patience, and the willingness to sacrifice what you want now for what you want permanently. And once you taste the strength of this discipline, once you feel the power of financial order flowing into your life, you realize something extraordinary. You were never meant to chase money. You were meant to command it. You were meant to build systems that work for you in the shadows. You were meant to architect a future that is unshakable. You were meant to stand in the center of your life with a posture that says, I decide what happens next. Not the market, not the economy, not chance, not fear, not your past, not your weaknesses. You. You become the anchor, the pillar, the strategist, the unmovable force. People will wonder how you built such stability. They'll wonder how you stayed composed when others panicked. They'll wonder how your financial life became a structure that nothing seems to shake. They won't understand the discipline it took. They won't see the sacrifices you made. They won't feel the nights you forced yourself to choose long-term vision over cheap instant gratification. They won't understand because they never stepped into the throne that was meant for them. But you did. And once you claim that throne, once you enforce structure, command discipline, and move with strategic clarity, your financial world bends in your favor. Opportunities appear where chaos once lived. Resources grow where waste once ruled. Confidence rises where uncertainty once suffocated you. This is the path of sovereignty. This is the path of mastery. This is the path of someone who refuses to bow. Build your fortress. Construct your systems. Choose discipline over chaos. Choose vision over impulse. Choose command over fear. Your financial destiny does not belong to chance. It belongs to the one who claims it with unwavering authority. And that person is you. Before we break this down into action, understand this truth. Power is not built in the mind alone. It is built in motion. Awareness means nothing without structure. Desire means nothing without discipline. And the vision you hold means nothing if your habits kneel to your weaknesses. If you want to rise, if you want to build a financial life that cannot be shaken, then you must reinforce your path with deliberate, strategic steps. Steps that forge order where there was chaos, strength where there was hesitation, and sovereignty where there was surrender. These next 5 steps are not suggestions. They are the blueprint for taking command of your financial destiny. Follow them with intensity, and your entire life begins to shift. Let's begin. Step 1. Establish absolute financial order. Before wealth can grow, before opportunities can find you, before strategy can take root, you must create order. Not partial order, not convenient order. Absolute order. Because chaos is the silent thief that robs people of their future long before they ever notice the damage. Chaos hides in untracked expenses, forgotten subscriptions, impulse purchases, disorganized accounts, and the unconscious bleeding of money that feels small in the moment, but compounds into destruction over time. You cannot conquer what you cannot see, and most people go through life financially blind. This is the first reason they never rise. Their money moves without their permission. Their account drains without their awareness. Their energy scatters because their financial world is a fog with no structure, no hierarchy, no control. But you are not here to drift like them. You are here to take command. Absolute financial order begins with brutal honesty. You must expose everything, every hidden habit, every unnecessary expense, every purchase you justified in the moment, but regretted later. This is not about shame. It is about reclaiming power. You cannot transform a kingdom if you refuse to look at the broken walls. Start by tracking every dollar that enters and leaves your life. This is not glamorous work. This is not exciting work. But it is the foundation upon which every empire is built. You must know the truth of your financial landscape, down to the smallest detail. What do you earn? What do you spend? What do you owe? What drains you? What strengthens you? Without this awareness, all future strategies collapse under the weight of guesswork. Order is the elimination of guesswork. Next, categorize your expenses. Break them into 3 domains. Survival, the necessities that keep you functioning. Stability, the tools, investments, and responsibilities that support your long-term security. Sabotage. Everything that steals from your future under the disguise of pleasure or convenience. You will be shocked by how much belongs in the third category. Not because you are irresponsible, but because society trains you to be. Every advertisement, every marketing tactic, every social expectation is designed to turn you into a passive consumer. And consumers rarely rise above the noise. But when you begin to see your financial ecosystem clearly, when you begin to recognize the difference between what sustains you and what weakens you, you reclaim the authority you unknowingly surrendered. Once the truth is exposed, you restructure. You make a plan for every dollar. Not most dollars, every dollar. This is not obsession. This is sovereignty. A ruler knows exactly where resources flow because they understand that mismanagement, even in small amounts, can destroy a kingdom from the inside. You must adopt the same mentality. You must treat your money as soldiers in your army. Every one of them must have a purpose, a mission, and a direction. Idle money decays. Wasted money betrays. Directed money builds. Create a primary account for bills and essentials, your base of operations. Create a separate account for investing and long-term growth, your arsenal. Create another for short-term goals, unexpected events, and strategic opportunities, your shield. When you separate your money by purpose, you reduce chaos and increase clarity. Decisions become easier because the structure decides for you. Discipline becomes natural because your environment supports your intentions instead of sabotaging them. But this step goes deeper. Absolute financial order is not only external, it is internal. You must confront the emotions tied to your spending habits. Do you buy to feel better? Do you spend to escape? Do you lose track because avoiding the truth feels easier? Financial disorder is often emotional disorder wearing a mask. To take command of your finances, you must also take command of your impulses. You must rise above the temporary feelings that push you toward decisions that weaken your future. You must become the kind of person who pauses before spending, who evaluates with logic instead of emotion, who acts with intention instead of instinct. This level of order does not happen overnight. It is forged day by day through repeated actions that build structure into your life. But once you establish this foundation, everything else becomes easier. Your mind becomes clearer. Your stress decreases. Your confidence increases because you are no longer reacting. You are directing. When you track everything, you control everything. When you assign purpose to your money, you align your life with your goals. When you build structure, you eliminate the chaos that once dictated your path. Step 1 is not a suggestion. It is the cornerstone of power. Without absolute financial order, you are building a kingdom on sand. But with it, you construct a fortress capable of weathering storms, seizing opportunities, and supporting every move you make in the climb toward wealth and sovereignty. This step is where you stop drifting and start ruling. Step 2. Build a fortress of discipline. Once you establish financial order, the next evolution, the step that separates the masses from the sovereign, is discipline. Not the soft, conditional discipline people pretend they have. Not the temporary discipline that lasts until convenience whispers in their ear. But fortress-level discipline. Unwavering, unbreakable, cold, and consistent. Most people sabotage their own financial future not because they lack intelligence, opportunity, or ambition, but because they lack the discipline to follow through. They want wealth without sacrifice, security without structure, freedom without responsibility. They want to rise while clinging tightly to the very habits that are dragging them down. That's not how financial power works. Discipline is the drawbridge that protects your empire, the shield that guards your progress, the wall that stops the threats you created yourself. This step requires a transformation in identity. You cannot build a life of financial strength with the habits of someone who is drowning. You cannot carry your old impulses into a future you expect to be different. You must become the kind of person who does what needs to be done, whether or not you feel like it. Discipline is built through rule setting. Strict, non-negotiable rules that you honor without fail. The moment you treat these rules as optional, you lose command. It is not the world that destroys most people financially. It is their own inconsistency. Your rules begin with spending boundaries. You define what is acceptable and what is forbidden. You eliminate impulse purchases by creating a mandatory waiting period before buying anything that is not essential. You disconnect emotions from money by forcing yourself to pause and evaluate with logic. You build habits that support your future, not your urges. Every rule you create becomes a brick in the fortress. Every boundary becomes reinforcement. But discipline is not only about restriction. It is about routine, the ritualistic structure that keeps chaos out of your financial life. You must create daily, weekly, and monthly habits that maintain your financial order. Checking your accounts daily to stay aware. Reviewing expenses weekly to catch patterns. Updating your budget monthly to stay aligned. Setting automatic transfers so your future is funded without negotiation. Routine breeds stability. Stability breeds momentum. Momentum breeds wealth. And here is the truth. Most people never say out loud. Even the strongest financial plan collapses without discipline. You could earn more, invest smartly, and plan brilliantly. But the moment your discipline weakens, your structure bleeds. Life will test you. Temptation will test you. Your own mind will test you. Some days you will feel invincible, and discipline will feel effortless. Other days you will feel tired, emotional, stressed, or impulsive. Those are the days when the weak fall. Those are the days when people overspend, skip saving, abandon their financial goals, and sabotage months of progress. But those are also the days that define you. The difference between someone who rises and someone who collapses is simple. The one who rises performs even when they don't want to. You must become that person. Discipline does not care about how you feel. Discipline does not negotiate. Discipline does not wait for motivation. Discipline is action in the absence of comfort. When you master this, you become dangerous in the most powerful way. You stop making emotional decisions with long-term consequences. You stop allowing short-term pleasures to steal from your future. You stop being controlled by your impulses and become controlled by your vision. And something extraordinary happens. Your confidence begins to rise. People think confidence comes from success. It doesn't. It comes from witnessing yourself honor your own commitments. It comes from keeping promises to yourself. It comes from seeing that you can choose strength over weakness, clarity over chaos, purpose over impulse. Discipline is self-respect in action. This step also requires protecting your environment. You cannot remain disciplined if your environment constantly encourages your downfall. You must remove or reduce the triggers that provoke emotional spending. You must distance yourself from people who encourage financial recklessness. You must eliminate apps, websites, and habits that pull you into impulsive behavior. A fortress is not only built of stone, it is built of boundaries. You reinforce these boundaries every time you say no to something that does not serve your future. And eventually, the discipline that once felt difficult becomes your default mode of operation. You stop craving the momentary rush of buying something you don't need. You stop seeking comfort through consumption. You begin to crave progress, stability, and control. This is the moment your identity shifts. The old version of you, the one ruled by impulses, begins to die. The new version, the one who acts with purpose, comes alive. Discipline is the difference between hoping for a better financial life and building one. Discipline is how you convert dreams into systems and systems into results. Discipline is how you move from survival to sovereignty. When you master this step, your financial world becomes a fortress, protected, reinforced, and guided by a version of yourself that refuses to kneel to weakness. This is the step where you stop wishing and begin forging. Step 3. Shift from consumer to controller. There is a moment in every financial awakening where you realize the brutal truth. Most people exist only to consume. They are trapped in a cycle designed by forces larger than themselves. Advertisers, corporations, trends, social pressure, psychological manipulation. They earn money only to pass it immediately into the hands of someone else. They work, they buy, they repeat. Their entire financial life becomes a conveyor belt of survival, not sovereignty. And the system prefers it that way. A consuming mind is predictable. A consuming mind is controllable. A consuming mind is never a threat to the established order. But you were not meant to live at the bottom of someone else's pyramid. You were not meant to survive off crumbs, while others build empires from your labor, your attention, your impulses, your unquestioned habits. Step 3 is the metamorphosis, the shift from being a consumer of the world to being a controller within it. This requires a fundamental reconstruction of your identity. You cannot expect to build wealth while behaving like the masses, people who chase every new product, every fleeting desire, every dopamine hit disguised as necessity. Their actions enrich everyone but themselves. Their time, their thoughts, their energy, consumed. You must step out of this cycle with surgical precision. The first phase of the shift is awareness, recognizing the difference between liabilities and assets, not in the textbook sense, but in the psychological sense. A liability is anything that diminishes your sovereignty. An asset is anything that strengthens it. Every decision must be filtered through this lens. Does this purchase give me power, or does it drain me? Does this habit grow my future, or does it weaken it? Does this behavior build my kingdom, or feed someone else's? When you start asking these questions, something begins to break. The spell of consumerism. You start seeing the world as a marketplace of illusions, designed to keep you busy, distracted, entertained, and financially stagnant. The second phase is reallocation, shifting your money from consumption to creation, from liabilities to assets, from waste to growth. This is where you begin to plant seeds instead of burning resources. You direct your finances toward things that expand your potential. Skills, knowledge, tools, investments, business ventures, income pathways that operate whether you're awake or asleep. Most people see money as something to spend. You must begin to see it as something to deploy. Every dollar must become a worker, one that goes out, gathers more resources, and returns stronger. This is how wealth multiplies, not through luck, not through gambling, but through controlled, intentional, strategic resource allocation. Then comes the third phase, ownership. Ownership is the ultimate form of financial control. When you own something that produces income, stocks, real estate, part of a business, intellectual property, automated systems, you shift power permanently. The world no longer extracts from you. It begins to pay you. You stop trading every hour of your time for dollars, and instead, you create streams of income that flow independent of your physical labor. This is the moment your financial life transforms. This is the moment you stop living on the defensive. This is the moment you begin playing offense, relentlessly, intelligently, unapologetically. People will question you during this transformation. They'll ask why you're so focused, why you're not buying everything they buy, why you're investing when they're relaxing, why you're building something they can't see yet. They won't understand that you are no longer participating in the system the way they are. You're not here to consume. You're here to construct. You're stepping into the role of the strategist, not the spectator. The architect, not the follower. The investor, not the emotional spender. The ruler, not the servant. But shifting into control is not only financial, it is psychological. You must confront the part of you that seeks quick pleasure. You must silence the part of you that craves the rush of buying something meaningless. You must become immune to trends, impervious to social pressure, uninterested in impressing people who contribute nothing to your future. This internal shift is more powerful than any investment strategy. Because when your mind aligns with the identity of a builder, your actions naturally follow. You begin thinking in terms of returns, not reactions. You begin valuing time more than comfort. You begin seeing through the illusions that once dictated your behavior. And then the final phase emerges, expansion. Once you control your spending, your habits, your decisions, and your direction, you begin expanding outward. You increase your income streams. You invest more aggressively. You take calculated risks. You think like someone who is building a legacy, not just a lifestyle. You stop chasing wealth. You start creating it. This step is the dividing line between those who stay stuck in financial mediocrity and those who ascend. Because the moment you stop being a consumer and become a controller, you step into a life that compounds upward instead of spiraling downward. You begin to operate like the very people who control industries, systems, and generational wealth. You join the ranks of those who don't merely participate in the economy, they shape it. This is the identity shift that builds empires. This is the mentality that turns scarcity into abundance. This is the mindset that transforms your financial path forever. Step 3 is not about money. It is about power. The power to choose, the power to direct, the power to create, the power to rise. When you stop consuming blindly and start controlling deliberately, your entire life moves from reaction to dominance. Step 4. Create long-term strategy and vision. Most people live their financial lives like they're navigating a storm with no map, reacting to every wave, every gust of wind, every unexpected event, as if chaos is the natural state of existence. They move from crisis to crisis, paycheck to paycheck, jumping from one financial decision to the next with no clarity, no trajectory, no guiding force beyond survival. But survival is not the goal. Survival is not sovereignty. Survival is not power. Survival is the lowest level of financial existence. Step 4 demands that you rise above survival and step into strategic dominance. Long-term thinking is the greatest separator between those who build wealth and those who lose it. The masses think in hours, days, or at best, weeks. The strong think in years. The powerful think in decades. The sovereign think in generations. person who wins in the long term is not the one who reacts fastest. It is the one who plans the deepest. This step begins with creating a vision, something so clear and defined that it becomes a gravitational force, pulling your life into alignment. Not a vague dream, not a sentimental wish, a precise, structured destination. Where do you want your finances to be in? 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? How much do you want saved? How much do you want invested? How many income streams do you want built? What kind of life do you want to wake up to every day? What level of power do you want over your own time? You cannot hit a target you never defined. This vision becomes the throne you are building toward. A throne constructed not from fantasy, but from numbers, timelines, strategy, and unwavering discipline. Once your vision is defined, you reverse engineer it. This is where the true power of long-term strategy emerges. If your 10-year goal requires a certain level of wealth, you calculate what must be earned, saved, and invested each year. You break those goals into monthly targets. Those monthly targets break into weekly habits, and those habits become daily actions that anchor your life with purpose. The world fears long-term planning because it requires accountability. It reveals the gap between who you are and who you claim you want to be. It exposes every weakness, every habit, every inconsistency. But this exposure is necessary, because once you see the truth, you can architect the solution. A long-term strategy also requires anticipation, the ability to see potential obstacles before they appear. You consider economic shifts, career changes, recessions, opportunities, and unknown variables. You do not fear the unexpected. You prepare for it. You create buffers. You build emergency reserves. You strengthen your portfolio. You diversify your income. You protect your future from the storms that destroy the unprepared. The unprepared panic when life changes. The prepared pivot. The strategic thrive. But long-term vision is not only about money, it is about identity. Who do you need to become to reach the future you envision? A version of you with stronger habits. A version with sharper discipline. A version with higher standards. A version with colder logic. A version with clearer boundaries. A version with greater resilience. Your long-term strategy is not a financial blueprint alone. It is a blueprint for your evolution. You begin making decisions based not on emotion, but on alignment. Ask yourself, does this action support my 10-year plan? Does this purchase align with the empire I am building? Does this habit strengthen or weaken the future I want? Most people never ask these questions. That is why their lives remain stagnant, why they repeat the same cycles, suffer the same frustrations, and wonder why nothing changes. You are stepping into a different reality, one where every action either moves you closer to your throne or pulls you away from it. Your long-term strategy must be written, reviewed, and refined regularly. Quarterly assessments, annual recalibrations, and consistent realignment keep you from drifting into neglect or comfort. The more deeply you understand your long-term path, the easier it becomes to resist short-term temptations. Because vision kills impulse, purpose kills distraction, clarity kills weakness. Wealth is not an accident. It is a byproduct of structure. Stability is not luck. It is a consequence of vision. Freedom is not stumbled upon. It is architected. And here is the hidden truth. Once you install long-term strategy into your life, everything becomes simpler. You stop questioning every decision. You stop battling your impulses. You stop feeling lost or overwhelmed. Because your strategy decides for you, you begin moving like a ruler, calculated, composed, and deliberate. This step transforms you from someone who reacts to life into someone who designs it. It shifts you from chaos to command, from short-term survival to long-term dominance. This is the step where you stop wandering and start building a future worthy of your potential. Step 5. Eliminate weakness and reinforce strength. Every financial downfall, every collapse, every repeated cycle of struggle can be traced back to one root cause: unaddressed weakness. People do not fail because the world is unfair. They do not fail because opportunity doesn't exist. They fail because they refuse to confront the parts of themselves that sabotage their financial stability. Weakness left unchecked becomes a parasite. It grows quietly. It disguises itself as comfort. It whispers excuses. And before you realize it, it has built a home in your habits, your decisions, your routines, and your identity. Step 5 is the most brutal step because it requires ruthless honesty. Honesty most people spend their entire lives avoiding. This is where you stare directly into the mirror and acknowledge what has been weakening your financial life. Not gently, not vaguely, not with softened language, with precision. You ask yourself the questions most people are too afraid to face. Where do I lack discipline? Where do I overspend? Where do I seek comfort instead of progress? Where do I avoid responsibility? Where do I lie to myself? What patterns keep repeating? And why? These answers are not pleasant, but they are necessary. Because the empire you are building cannot stand on a foundation of denial. To become sovereign, you must eliminate the weaknesses that have been ruling you from the shadows. Weakness is not always dramatic. It is subtle. It is familiar. It becomes part of your daily rhythm until you forget it's even there. It might be emotional spending. It might be procrastination. It might be fear of investing. It might be the habit of reacting instead of planning. It might be surrounding yourself with people who normalize financial chaos. It might be your addiction to comfort, to convenience, to the small pleasures that pull you away from long-term stability. But here is the truth that burns. You cannot defeat what you refuse to acknowledge. Once your weaknesses are exposed, the next move is elimination. Not negotiation, not moderation. Elimination. You restructure your habits. You set firmer boundaries. You cut off triggers that push you into destructive behaviors. You remove people who feed your worst tendencies. You distance yourself from environments that promote financial ruin. This process is not comfortable. It is not gentle, but it is cleansing. As you remove the weak points in your financial life, you begin to feel a shift. Your decisions become clearer. Your stress decreases. Your confidence increases. You stop feeling at war with yourself because your actions finally align with your goals. You become coherent, strategic, unified. But eliminating weakness alone is not enough. You must also reinforce strength. This is the second half of Step 5, the part that ensures your progress becomes permanent. Strength is built through repetition, through consistency, through resilience forged in daily action. You reinforce strength by continuing to track your finances even when it feels tedious, honoring your budget even when temptation rises, investing regularly even when the world panics, learning continuously even when you feel satisfied, staying focused on your long-term vision even when distractions surround you. Your strengths are the pillars of your financial kingdom. But pillars require maintenance. Neglect is the enemy of stability. Reinforcing strength is about building habits that support your future automatically, so you do not need to rely on willpower alone. Systems beat emotion, structure beats chaos, and identity beats motivation. The stronger your identity becomes, the harder it is for weakness to infiltrate. You begin to see yourself as someone who doesn't overspend, doesn't fold under pressure, doesn't run from responsibility, doesn't chase trends, doesn't seek validation through consumption, doesn't fear long-term commitments. You become someone who takes pride in discipline, someone who finds comfort in consistency, someone who values freedom over impulse, someone who builds instead of reacts. This identity shift is the true transformation, because you no longer have to think about being disciplined. You are disciplined. You no longer try to act strategically. You are strategic. You no longer fight weakness. It no longer has authority over you. And here is the hidden truth of step 5. Strength must become a lifestyle, not an event. Financial stability is not secured in a single moment. It is reinforced through hundreds of small decisions made every day, decisions guided by integrity, clarity, and self-control. When your strengths operate on autopilot, your life becomes almost unshakable. This is the stage where growth accelerates, where your progress compounds, where one good decision multiplies into dozens, where opportunities appear because you are finally stable enough to seize them. Step 5 is the purification stage. It is where the weaker version of you is burned away, leaving only the strongest parts behind. It is where your financial life shifts from fragile to fortified. When you eliminate weakness and reinforce strength, you stop being a victim of your circumstances and become the architect of your destiny. This is the step where you transform from someone who tries to build wealth into someone who inevitably does. In the end, everything comes down to this. You are either the ruler of your financial life or the ruled. There is no middle ground. There is no neutral position. Every decision you make, every dollar you track or ignore, every habit you strengthen or indulge, pushes you towards sovereignty or servitude. Most people will never know what true financial power feels like. They will never taste the calm that comes from control, the confidence that comes from strategy, or the freedom that comes from discipline. They will live in reaction, drifting between impulses, repeating the same patterns year after year while wondering why nothing changes. But you are not like them. You wouldn't still be here if you were. You have taken the first steps into a different world, a world where your life bends to your will instead of chance. You've built order where there was chaos. You've forged discipline where there was weakness. You've learned to control instead of consume. You've created a vision that stretches far beyond the present moment. And you've eliminated the internal enemies that once held you hostage. You are not the person you were when you started. You are sharper. You are stronger. You are more deliberate. You are stepping into the identity of someone who does not bow to circumstance, but bends circumstance to their strategy. Now understand this truth. Your financial destiny does not depend on luck, timing, or external approval. It depends on the choices you make daily, the structure you maintain, the vision you honor, the discipline you uphold, and the strength you reinforce. You have the blueprint. You have the path. You have the authority. The only question left is whether you will execute, because the future belongs to those who refuse to kneel to their weaknesses and rise with the structure, clarity, and force of a ruler claiming their throne. Stand tall. Move with intention. Act with dominance. Your financial empire begins now.